United States President Donald Trump announces a new trade war against Europe and Mexico. The United States President threatened to impose 30% tariffs on products from Mexico and the European Union, America's two largest trading partners, as part of an ongoing tariff campaign that has undermined global trade. Since he took office again in January, in fact, this means that Trump is sticking to his course despite all the costs. But it's telling that Europe did not remain silent. The head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, stated that the 30% tariff on exports from the European Union, which the United States plans to introduce, will harm businesses and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. She promptly cautioned that the European Union is prepared to act if talks with Washington are unsuccessful. But the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, was more firm in his statements, directly saying that the European Union should introduce the same tariffs against goods from the United States in a mirror response. And more importantly, to look for new markets so that in the end, Americans are left without European goods, regardless of whether there is a trade deal or not. I'm Alexei Pecci. Today is July 13th. Let's go through this step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, write any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pecci News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, Donald Trump continues to stick to his position in the trade war, and recently Trump announced that he will impose a 30% tariff on European goods. And next, they will quote from Trump's letter to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The United States of America has agreed to continue cooperation with the European Union despite one of the largest trade deficits with you. Nevertheless, we have decided to move forward, but only within the framework of more balanced and fair trade. But this means that negotiations will continue at least until the 1st of August. And if nothing is agreed upon by August 1st, then there will definitely be tariffs of 30%. And this year, Trump imposed a number of tariffs on the United States' trading partners and then suspended them, changed them, raised or lowered them. In such a rather chaotic stream of political actions, which made everyone from major countries to individual Americans try to figure out how to even plan their future lives. Even despite the growing economic uncertainty, what should we do next? What will Trump do next? Will he raise tariffs, lower them, or put them on pause again? Nobody understands what he is going to do. And just recently, the European Union and Mexico joined the growing list of countries whose imports will face updated tariffs starting August 1st. Since on Monday, Trump began publishing letters with tariff rates up to 40%. In his letters to the European Union and Mexico, Donald Trump stated that all imports are subject to a 30% tariff except for sector-specific tariffs, such as the 25% tariff on cars from Europe. Von der Leyen stated in her statement that the European Union is still, quote, ready to continue working towards reaching an agreement by the August 1st deadline. However, according to her, the 30% tariff on European Union exports will harm supply chains, businesses and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. Next, her quote, the European Union will take all necessary steps to protect its interests, including adopting proportionate countermeasures if needed. French President Emmanuel Macron agreed that the European Commission should continue to firmly defend European interests, he said, quote, in particular, this implies accelerating the preparation of reliable countermeasures by mobilizing all available tools, including measures to counter coercion if an agreement is not reached by August 1. It is important that the opinions of Macron and von der Leyen were supported by other European Union officials. During the most decisive public pushback against the political pressure from the Trump administration and the trade crisis that erupted back in early May. That is, in Europe, everyone takes exactly the same position. If there is no deal, then Europe must introduce absolutely symmetrical countermeasures. Meanwhile, most goods from Mexico could be imported into the United States duty-free, provided that they comply with the agreement between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, which Donald Trump himself concluded during his first presidential term. It's funny, but Trump has already managed to embarrass himself when he said he was puzzled as to who even came up with the idea to sign the trade agreement between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. even though he was the one who came up with this agreement during his first presidential term, and Americans are now mocking him for it. In a letter to the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, Trump stated that the tariffs were imposed to stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States, which he had previously used as justification for imposing tariffs on Mexico as well. And here Trump acted extremely foolishly, which will only push others away from cooperating with him. Let me explain. Let me remind you that in the spring, Donald Trump threatened Mexico with harsh tariffs because streams of fentanyl and illegal immigrants are coming from that country. At that time, Trump demanded that Mexican border police help their American colleagues at the border, which the Mexicans did by sending additional patrols. It would seem that the Mexicans fulfilled Donald Trump's demands, but today Trump made the following statement, quote, "Mexico helped me secure the border, but what Mexico did is not enough, and so I am reinstating the tariffs." This means that whatever Trump asks of you, it doesn't matter whether you do it or not. If he decides to bring back the tariffs, he'll just bring them back. Mexico's Minister of Economy, Marcelo Ebrard, stated that the Mexican delegation told United States officials at a meeting on Friday that plans to set a new tariff rate would be unfair treatment. And we do not agree with that. However, the United States and Mexico are negotiating to find an alternative to protect businesses and jobs on both sides of the border. In letters about tariffs dated Friday, Trump stated that any retaliatory measures imposing duties on imports from the United States would be met with resistance from Washington. Trump stated that whatever amount you decide to raise tariffs by, it will be added to the 30% that we are charging. He also called tariff and non-tariff trade barriers additional reasons for imposing tariffs on the European Union and Mexico, and the Trump administration paid special attention to value-added taxes and digital services taxes, which play an important role in a number of European Union member countries. Let me explain. The digital services tax is levied on the gross revenue that online companies earn from providing services to users in the European Union. Countries where such taxes are in effect will be able to tax all the income earned by large online companies, even if that business is considered unprofitable. This may include income from the sale of data and advertising. Plus, there are also subscription payments, payments for software and other types of online services paid for by users from the European Union. And now Trump has gone after the Europeans. Trump and members of his administration have repeatedly stated that the European Union is allegedly negotiating in bad faith. Well, 2 months ago, Trump was so outraged by the lack of progress in trade negotiations that he was ready to impose a 50% tariff on goods from the European Union starting June 1st. Let me remind you, at that time Trump nervously stated he no longer wanted any deal with the Europeans, saying, "That's it, we're stopping the negotiations, there will be no deal. I'm imposing 50% tariffs, and I don't care about anything else." Do you think this affected the markets back then? Of course it did. Did Trump actually impose those tariffs? No, he didn't. That's the whole point of Trump's policy. After Trump made this threat to the Europeans in May, United States Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the European Union's proposals were not of the same quality as those of our other important trading partners. Although, let me remind you, at that time, Trump didn't have a single trade deal with the countries he imposed tariffs on. So, what proposals from other important trading partners there were is unknown. The only one who has announced something resembling a full-fledged trade deal so far is the United Kingdom. And today, Bessent decided to use the British as an example. And as he put it, quote, "The United Kingdom wisely made an early deal." Letters about tariffs to the European Union and Mexico were sent after Trump threatened on Thursday to impose 35% duties on some Canadian goods. Here's where it gets really interesting. According to the Office of the United States Trade Representative, the member countries of the European Union together are America's largest trading partners. In 2024, the volume of bilateral trade in goods between the European Union and the United States amounted to almost $1 trillion. The volume of bilateral trade between Mexico and the United States amounted to about 840 billion United States dollars, while between Canada and the United States it was just over 762 billion dollars. And now, Trump is once again trying to strangle these major trading partners with his new tariffs. But whether he will impose them on August 1st, of course, no one knows for sure. So I'll leave it at that for now. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like.